Serena Vaughn had spent nearly 3 decades shaping justice from behind the bench. She was a woman of measured tone, relentless intellect, and unimpeachable reputation. As a federal judge, she had tried some of the most complex cases in the Southern Circuit, stood for reform, and mentored dozens of young attorneys. But that Thursday evening, as the late sun spilled gold across the quiet roads of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, none of that mattered. Not her resume, not her robe, not her record. All that Officer Colin Myers saw was a black woman alone in a car. She had just finished delivering a keynote at Charleston's Civil Rights Symposium, where she'd spoken with her usual mix of precision and empathy. The crowd gave her a standing ovation. It had been a long day, and she was ready to unwind, heat up leftovers, and kick off her heels. Her silver Honda Accord hummed along a tree-lined street, only minutes from her home. She checked her mirrors, used her blinker at the last turn, and felt the rhythm of familiarity guide her. Then came the flash of blue lights in her rearview mirror. Serena's brows furrowed. She wasn't speeding. Her seatbelt was secure. She'd signaled, hadn't she? She pulled calmly to the curb, rolled down her window, and placed her hands on the steering wheel. Her posture was open, respectful, experienced. This wasn't her first time being pulled over, but it would be the one she'd never forget. A white officer, late 30s, angular face and close-cut hair, approached without greeting. License and registration. Of course, officer, Serena said gently, her voice smooth and professional. May I ask what the violation was? You didn't use your turn signal. She blinked. I believe I did, but one moment. She opened the glove box, retrieved her documents, and handed them over. My name is Serena Vaughn. I'm a federal judge. I'm just coming back from a speaking engagement downtown. Myers didn't react, didn't even look up. He turned and walked away with her ID. Serena waited. 3 minutes, then 5. When he returned, his tone had hardened. Step out of the vehicle. She stared, confused. I'm sorry. I said, step out of the car. Now. He wasn't yelling, but there was a sharpness in his voice that cut. Her stomach dropped. Officer, I don't understand. Is there a reason you're asking me to exit my vehicle? You're being combative. Step out now, or I'll remove you myself. She exhaled, steadying her hands as she opened the door. Her heels touched the pavement. She kept her hands visible. Turn around. Neighbors had started to take notice. A couple froze by their mailbox. A teenager across the street was already recording. Serena's voice stayed calm. I've done nothing wrong. You're resisting, he snapped. He spun her, pulled her arms behind her back, and snapped cold metal cuffs around her wrists. Officer, she breathed, holding back emotion. This is a mistake. My ID. You think your job makes you above the law. That's when she realized he wasn't listening. Or worse, he was, but he didn't care. She saw a young woman filming on her phone nearby. Their eyes met. Serena gave the faintest shake of her head. Not shame, just disbelief. She sat on the edge of the sidewalk, wrists bound, knees stiff, car door still open, purse on the passenger seat, her credentials visible. The badge from a United States District Court lay flat in plain sight. Officer Myers hadn't even looked at it. Officer, she tried again, please just verify who I am. This is a serious misjudgment. No response. He paced, hand resting on his weapon, scanning the quiet street like he expected chaos. But the only threat was his own assumption. A silver-haired man across the street stepped forward. Is everything all right? Go back inside, Myers barked. She's a federal judge, the man insisted. I saw her speak today at the hall downtown. I said go back inside. The tension thickened. It wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. Myers turned back to Serena. Why didn't you say who you were? She looked up tired. I did. Twice. He squinted at her like she was lying. Walked back to his cruiser. Muttered something she couldn't hear. Her arms were going numb. 10 minutes passed. No backup. Then a young man in a Howard University sweatshirt stepped forward. Ma'am, are you okay? Serena turned her head slightly. Please don't intervene. Just record. I already am, he said quietly. Myers spun. Back up. I'm on public property, sir. Back up, or you'll be detained too. Then I guess I'll be detained. No one moved. The street held its breath. Then the radio on Myers' shoulder crackled. Back up en route. Minutes later, another cruiser pulled up. Out stepped Officer Elena Torres, mid-40s, composed, serious. She surveyed the scene, then looked at the ID on the seat. "This hers?" she asked. "She said it is," Myers replied. Torres read the name, then turned to Serena. "Ma'am, is your name Judge Serena Vaughn?" "Yes." Torres blinked, glanced at the crowd, then back at Myers. "You cuffed a federal judge?" She didn't comply. "She's sitting on a sidewalk. In heels." "Chad, I had reason." "Unlock the cuffs." Myers hesitated, then slowly knelt and fumbled with the keys. The cuffs clicked open. Torres helped Serena to her feet. "Y apologize, Mom." "I want both your badge numbers," Serena said. Torres gave hers immediately. Myers mumbled his. "You'll be hearing from the court," Serena said coldly. But the damage was already done. Back in Torres's cruiser kept there for safety, Serena rolled her wrists, red and sore. Her face remained unreadable, but inside, she was unraveling. "Am I under arrest?" she asked. "No, ma'am," Torres replied from the front seat. "You're being detained while we sort this out." "For a traffic signal?" "Myers said you were uncooperative. You saw the footage. He never even asked twice." Torres paused. "This is a mess," she admitted. "It's going to get worse." Myers returned moments later. "You can go," he muttered. "Just a warning." Serena stepped out slowly. "A warning?" she repeated. "For failing to signal? After being cuffed?" No answer. She looked at Torres. "Did you write the warning?" "No, ma'am." "And you don't believe I deserved one either, do you?" "No, ma'am." The crowd had thinned, but not disappeared. The Howard students still stood nearby. The elderly man watched from his porch. The young woman with the phone kept filming. They had all seen what happened, and they wouldn't forget. Serena sat in her car before starting it. Her reflection stared back at her in the mirror, calm, poised. But her jaw clenched. She texted her daughter, "Call me in 10. Something happened. As she drove home, she passed the police station without meaning to. A wave of fatigue swept over her, not anger, not even pain, just tiredness, heavy and bitter. Back inside the station, Myers filled out his report. Female driver. No mention of the badge. No name. Just shallow notes. Torres stood silently behind him. "You know this isn't going away." "She made it worse," he snapped. "She didn't do anything. You lost control. She thought she was better than me." "She is," Torres said, without blinking. "And you knew it." Phone footage had already gone viral. The Howard student uploaded it with a simple caption. She said she was a judge. He didn't care. By morning, it had over 20,000 shares. CNN called it an alarming look into unchecked bias. Local papers ran headlines beside photos of Serena cuffed on the ground, spliced with courtroom shots. The contrast was haunting. The police department issued a brief statement. Pending review, administrative leave. But it was too late. In churches, on the radio, at the barbershop, people were talking. At a farmer's market, elders passed out flyers. When they ignore the robe, they reveal the truth. Her silence made it louder. By Sunday, her daughter Simone arrived early. "It's everywhere," she said. "For a million views." "You started something." "I didn't start anything," Serena replied. "I was going home." By midweek, law students marched in silent protest. Community forums popped up. Clergy issued statements. Judges across the region condemned the misuse of authority. But Serena said nothing until Wednesday. She stood at a podium at Burke Hall, where days earlier she had spoken on civil rights. "No notes. No script. I was detained by an officer who saw me but didn't see me. I followed every instruction. I identified myself. I was still cuffed. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. And the truth is, some badges see robes as invisible. I won't press charges, but I demand reform. Real training. Accountability." The crowd rose, not in fury, but in unity. Later that night, she posted one statement online. "Strength doesn't always mean shouting. Sometimes it's standing still so the world can see." It was shared over 50,000 times. She didn't follow the comments, didn't check the likes. She returned to court, reviewed files, issued rulings. But the atmosphere had changed. Officers stood straighter. Lawyers watched their tone. She didn't bring up what happened. She didn't need to. The city council called a meeting. Residents lined up to speak. If she wasn't safe, one senior said, "Who among us is?" Torres filed a second report this time, requesting public release of the full body cam footage. Within hours, it dropped. Myers was caught muttering, "One of them thinks she's above the rules." The department had no choice. He was fired 2 weeks later. Meanwhile, pre-law students launched the Vaughn Watch. A public defender's office began training on bias and accountability. At a quiet community center, Serena met with students. "Would you have done anything differently?" one asked. "No," she answered, "because how I acted wasn't the problem." "Were you afraid?" "No, I was tired, but I knew who I was, and that's what saved me." That night, she posted one final message. "What I endured wasn't punishment. My silence was a statement. I stood still so you could see. What will you do with what you've seen?" And the world kept watching.